Welcome back. What is this, MMA calculator?
I think it did Attic MMA.
Oh, MMA Attic. Get in our attic.
Welcome back. Since we have no UFC, Bellator, or PFL cards this weekend, we're bringing you an update video on our betting strategy and the new data we have added into our prediction model. We use the 7 most recent fight cards to test against. We realize this isn't a huge amount of data to build assumptions off of, but this process has helped us improve our record keeping in order to analyze the results in the future. We now have the infrastructure in place to run several models with a variety of data sets, generating and storing fair odds and expected values for each. These can then be accessed later and analyzed the same way we will be doing today. Let's start off by taking a look at how our current data and betting strategy would have performed with a few different methods of selecting betting positions. First off, we have the method we have landed on through trial and error. Model favorites with positive expected value. As we have seen, this is profitable and at an expected 9%. This is exactly in line with our real-world experience. Looking a little deeper, we can see that most of the profit is coming from underdogs, outperforming favorites by nearly 2%. Another method that we evaluated was betting on every plus EV line that we had. Betting this way would increase our risk by roughly 30%, while also turning a 9% profit into a 3% loss. We would make the exact same bets on book favorites, still returning a small profit. Unfortunately, we would have risked much more on book underdogs that the model also showed as underdogs, which would have left us negative overall. It is safe to say that this isn't a method we plan to use without massive refinements to our expected value calculations. The last method that we chose to test was betting all model favorites and ignoring EV. Comparing this to our current method, you can see we would have returned nearly 3 times the profits. This looked very promising until we noticed that our total stake increased by even more. This method is guaranteed to increase risk as we would expect to bet on every single fight. This method is only returning a 7% profit as opposed to 9%. One option we are considering is that we could instead increase our unit size by 3 while using our current betting method. Our total risk would be less and our expected profits would be greater. The general takeaway at this time is that our current method for choosing which positions to take is the best of the 3. It has shown through this evaluation and in practice to be profitable, although it does seem to be in our best interest to increase our unit size to maximize our profits. As always, if our strategy or methods change, we will let you know the moment we make that call. As we mentioned in our last video, we have gathered several new data points to add to our prediction model. We ran many tests and we have some results to share with you today. Since we have identified a viable betting method, we're going to continue to compare that with the results we found after running the new data. The new data was run on the same limits that the original data would have had. Primarily, we restricted the training data to only include information that would have existed before the event in question. In other words, we only trained on past events and we tested the model with only the pre-fight stats. After training and testing all 7 cards, here are the results we found for the model favorites with positive EV method. They are not too good. We are projecting a loss overall, and quite a big one too, at almost 7%. Our total stake is 25% more, and the only place that we are seeing a profit is from book favorites. Unfortunately, that is still lower than the percentage profit we see from the old data. Let's move on to another method of choosing our plays and see if we can improve. Next up for the new data is taking all positive EV positions. Just as we saw with the old data, this is not a viable method. Our risk goes through the roof, and again, our return plummets. This is showing a 13.4% loss, which is enough to bust our bankroll in a matter of months. There just isn't anything here that is actually worth addressing. We will be steering clear of this method unless something changes massively with the addition of future cards. Our last method, betting all model favorites, didn't perform all that bad on the old dataset. Let's see how it fares with some new information. With a profit of only 1.14%, it does outperform the other two methods on this dataset. Unfortunately, it also seems that a lot of time and effort was sunk into data collection and machine learning for nothing. It is very clear at this point that we won't be changing the way our predictions are being run for now, but we will continue to run numbers against the new information for future analysis. I also feel the need to look deeper into this new data, how it's being used, and confirm that the predictive model is using the numbers as intended. After such a massive failure in an attempt to improve our numbers, we couldn't just leave it there. Instead, we came up with another idea to see how a change in our betting strategy could affect the results. We decided to label our current strategy as 1+, meaning that we would bet 1 unit on any underdogs while betting enough to profit 1 unit on any favorites. For example, we place a 1 unit wager on a +180 line, and we also bet 1.8 units on a -180 line. The other strategy that we will be comparing to, we're calling flat betting. This, as you can probably guess, entails us betting 1 unit across the board. We ran all the numbers again, but this time we only wagered a single unit on all positions. The results with the new fight data were as bad as the old strategy, so we'll gloss over those quickly. We saw a 5.75% loss with our current betting method. This only gets worse, as always, when we bet based on positive EV alone, dropping to a 13.72% loss. As we saw with the new data on the 1+ strategy, things improve when we bet on all model favorites, but in this case, it's still a loss of 1.91%. Now that we've gotten the worst out of the way, let's have a look at something with a little potential. We will be comparing the original data set with 1+ betting on all model favorites showing positive expected value. If instead we had implemented a flat betting strategy on the same method of choosing our plays, we would have seen a healthy increase in profits. This would have come with a bit lower risk, increasing our profit percentage from 9 to 14. Most of this is due to a massive jump in percentage profit from book favorites. After looking into this data, though, we realize that this is likely caused by the Rumbecki loss and will likely settle over time. Next up, we have the notoriously bad all-positive EV method. This time, only showing a 0.9% loss. Unfortunately, with only 8 bets on favorites, it likely suffers from the same issue as the last method. Reducing the risk on such a big favorite that ends up losing is likely skewing the numbers heavily in the positive direction. Again, we will be keeping this method of betting in analysis for now. It has no place at the books. Finally, let's have a look at flat betting on all model favorites. As expected, our total risk is much higher as we'd have bet on almost every fight. Also, in this scenario, our percentage profit has increased significantly. Most notably, our profit margin on book favorites has leveled out some, as there are now 49 positions taken instead of the 8 we had previously seen. This offers a very promising outlook for a change in betting strategy going forward. From the data that we have analyzed, it is obvious that making all positive expected value bets is a terrible strategy. It is a loss in every scenario that we evaluated. Because of this, we will be reevaluating our EV calculations in order to improve them in the future. As of now, this number means practically nothing for underdogs. Although, when comparing model favorites with positive EV to the method of betting model favorites regardless of EV, it becomes clear that we cannot do away with it completely. We will be adding to this data every fight week with real-world results along with adding historical data as well. It will be a couple of months before we do another update video of this sort, but the next time we do, we should have 5 to 10 times the amount of betting data, so our analysis and conclusions should be much more solid. That's going to be it for this week. Join us early next week for UFC 302, Makhachev versus Poirier. And don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out.